Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. Today I have a special guest on the podcast, another international guest. Her name is Emma Dunwoody, also known as the Human Design Coach. I was chatting to her before and saying, I can't actually figure out how I found you, but I think I was looking on Apple Podcasts and I was just kind of in the search area and then it popped up as like a recommended one. After another human design podcast I was listening to, and then I found her on Instagram from there, which usually it's the other way around. You found someone on Instagram and then you found their podcast, so it was such a nice surprise. And I started listening to her podcast and I just love her voice. I'm very attracted to Australian people in general. I know why, because my Jupiter line is there through Sydney, so anyone Australian, I've always wanted to chat to them and I wanted to move there. That's why I studied teaching when I got back from overseas. I've never used my teaching, but I can teach grade R to grade 3 just because I wanted to move to Australia, and back then it was the easiest way to go. So that was about 2008 I think I started studying teaching. It's all because my Jupiter line was calling me, which I only learned about last year, so it's been so interesting. So yeah, I'm so excited that I found her, and I just loved her podcast and listening to her voice and everything that she has to say. It's all very simple to understand, and the topics that she talks about, like sleep and the eating and all these different ways of how your human design affects you. The sleep one especially, I've like bookmarked that episode. It's so interesting and it's so accurate, especially for me as a manifesting generator and a projector partner. So it's been super interesting chatting to her. I'm so excited that she has agreed to come onto the podcast, and I can't wait for you to get to know Emma Dunwoody. So welcome, Emma. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I've kind of had this long time affinity with South Africa. My mum actually went over there, and she was a nurse in South Africa for a while, way before she ever met my dad or had me. But so I've always had this fascination, and I just love your accent. A little bit about me. So I suppose my bio is that I am a master coach, a human design coach and expert. I'm an intuitive, I'm a behavioral profiler. But really, I'm a person who had a massive, massive crash at 28 at my Saturn return. I was diagnosed with depression and panic disorder. I considered taking my own life for about 7 or 8 years. And really, that was the catalyst for me to be on this massive healing journey. And I love that it's so in alignment, and we're going to get to it, with my self-love journey. So ultimately, I'm a person who's really on the planet to really be myself and then empower other people to do the same. You know, I have been an entrepreneur now for, I think it's about 10 years. And I've always been really driven to empower other people to take back the power in their life. And yeah, so I run an online business. I have a podcast. I'm a mum. I'm traveling Australia in a caravan with my husband and my 2 boys for 12 months. Manifesting generator. So I'm going to give you like 7 answers to every question instead of just the one.
I love it. I'm excited for that. So I totally understand. So what does self-love mean to you?
Self-love means to me really being able to prioritize yourself first. It's something that can be a little bit of, I know growing up for me, I mean, I'm 47 now, but when I was growing up, like we were always taught to think about others first and take care of others first and put ourselves on the back burner, and we're as important of needs as our kids or our family or anyone. Like everyone's needs came before us. So self-love for me really means prioritizing ourselves first so that we can fill our own cup, overflowing cup, as opposed to trying to constantly, dig into something or not have enough energy or, miss out. So really, self-love is about prioritizing ourselves first so that we can give and be more.
And what little self-love practices do you do each day?
Well, each day, I mean, my self-love practices have really evolved over time. When I was 28, I was diagnosed with depression and panic disorder, which were catalysts for really like becoming the woman I am today. And that was where my self-love practices really started. I remember that I tried so many things to try and heal myself, and I read so many books, and through my mindset and my unresourceful beliefs. But the two things that I started at 28 that really massive difference that were my part of my self-love that I still do every day today was gratitude and meditate. So meditating was, and still is to this day, probably one of the things that made so much difference in my day-to-day well-being, really being able to calm much value, creativity from how we feel. We're just energy, and where this energy is moving at a certain speed that creates a frequency and a vibration. When we use gratitude, this does to really change our brain chemicals, to call in things that are aligned to us. So, and so much more. Like gratitude itself, when you gratitude and you feel great for something, it actually releases hormones to heal your physical body. So it's a really powerful tool. The other thing that I do on my body, my physical body, it's got a lot to do with self-love for me, because if I don't move my physical body, it's like I almost don't feel like myself, or I feel really stuck. So things like sleep, I'm very conscious of playfulness and being playful and doing the things that I love, doing the work that lights me up. I kind of feel like living is a self-love practice. So I try to do the best I possibly can each day. I'm not perfect at it. I don't believe in perfection, but I do the best I can every day.
So what does your self-love journey look like?
My self-love journey, been quite a long one, to be honest. When I first started on this journey, I was so far from self-love, like so far. And it took me a long time to actually even believe it was possible to love myself. So, as I say, at 28, I was diagnosed with depression and panic disorder. I discovered very quickly that this wasn't something that I could live with for the rest of my life. So I had to do something about it. I had to find a way to heal myself. So my self-love journey really started at that time. And it all started with my brain and my mindset, like understanding that where I was put, and that 95% of my behavior was coming from the unconscious mind, and that I needed to clean that up. So my self-love journey really started with kind of learning to stop putting all my faith in my mind and the stories that I told myself. And at the time I felt pretty shitty, to be honest, but it was that, okay, well, I'm going to do these things. I'm meditating, I'm doing gratitude, I'm conscious of my mindset. And over time, I started to heal myself. And of course, then I started to learn how to love myself. One of my favorite books on self-love is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And in there, she has like this mirror practice. You have to stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. This day, give this book as an assignment. And I know it took me like 6 months to even look at myself in the mirror, let alone actually that I love you to myself in the mirror. So it was a super bumpy ride. And ultimately what I know now is that it was all about giving myself permission to be all of me, and know what that was and what that meant. And human design's been a massive, I would say, like, it probably took me about 5-6 years to really be like, okay, I love myself. Even on the bad days, I love myself. And I think that's the thing that most people miss is, like, it's easy to love ourselves on the good days, but it's all about the days that we aren't our best selves. If we can love and accept ourselves on those days, then we're really kicking some serious goals. And life, even though it mightn't feel like it in the moment, is really, it's looking up. It's a good place to be when you can love yourself in any part of that journey of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I totally agree. And I think that is basically such a good self-love goal, is to love yourself on those days as well. So what do you think is the correlation between human design and self-love?
Oh, I love this quest. The human design gives us the energetic print of really who we chose to come into this world to be, the lessons we came to learn, the things our soul wants to experience. And ultimately, what it gives us is this ultimate permission slip to be ourselves. And human design really, one of the things I love the most about it is that every time with someone, especially someone who's quite new to it, they're just blown away at how true this is for them. That this piece, this chart can tell so much about their darkest, even fears, their superpowers, how they make decisions, even their soul purpose. Like, there's so much in there. And ultimately, the correlation between the two is here to be the soul we came in here to be. And ultimately, it's an experiment. It's not telling us who we are. It's saying, try this out, because this is how your energy looked the day you were born. So this could probably give you everything you need to best, happiest, most expanded self. And so human design gives us the opportunity to really love ourselves, because so often what I will see with my clients is that they will have been struggling with something about themselves that they don't like, and they're trying, they all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, that's like my personality sun. That's my most prominent energy. Oh my goodness, this is what I've come here to do. This is how I've come here to serve the world. So in so many cases, the things that we're trying to change about ourselves are actually our superpowers. So human design, again, it just gives us that opportunity to know what's true for us. It gives us the frame to experiment what's true for us, and then really supports us to love all of ourselves, because why else would our soul come in and choose it so perfectly if that wasn't exactly the way we were meant to be?
Oh, it's so powerful. How did you get into human design?
So human design all the time, especially for people who either work with me privately or they come to me for the mastermind, and they say this thing, and it's the same thing happened to me. It's like, it found me. Like, I don't know how I came across it. It was just like I found it, and all of a sudden I had to know everything. I had to go down the rabbit hole. And I suppose I had a really similar experience. Someone within my community, old school commentary and marketing was very negative, was very, dark, like basically you're screwed, so give up. And I read that and I was like, oh, it's a hard no. I'm having none of that. Especially as a behavioral coach, I was very aware by that stage. I'm like, nah, I make my reality. So anything that's this negative, I'm not interested in. So I put it down. And the second time my husband brought it to me, again, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is fascinating. And that time I looked up my profile, and I'm a 3-5 profile. And again, it was this really negative commentary that I was reading. And this is before it really took off. And there's a lot of people, and even Karen Curry Parker now is completely up now. This is a while ago. And then I actually went and I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage, an 800-kilometer walk from the bottom of France up and over the Pyrenees and along the top of Spain. And I went with the intention, like, show me my purpose, because from the outside, my life was perfect, but from the inside, it sucked. And I felt like there were just bits that were missing. Like, I knew that I fitting, like there was like pieces missing all over the place. So I sort of went with this intention, show me my purpose, show me what I'm really meant to be here, show me my truth. I walked the Camino. I answered so many questions for myself. I really discovered how, inverted commas, different I was from everyone else. Like, let's be honest, we're all super different. We're all really, really different. We're meant 95% I had what I needed. But 48 hours of coming back from the Camino, not only had I lost my father, human design literally hit me in the face 5 or 6 times in 48 hours through this process. And I was like, okay, universe, I get you. I'm not going to put it down. So this time I picked it up. I literally Googled best human design something in Australia. And this person popped up, and literally she's someone who'd been doing it for 20 years. Very few people in Australia had been doing it for that length of time. And she lived a suburb away. So I'm like on the phone to Kim and discovered that like she literally was trained by someone who channeled it all in.
I can't believe she lived a suburb apart from you, like away. That's crazy.
So it's like, oh my goodness, this is so serendipitous. I can't put it down. And then I started to really dive deep, and it completely transformed my life.
Sure. You see, it was all meant to be. So what is your favorite part of human design?
You know, the favorite part of human design for me is actually seeing how it changes people's lives. You know, like who really wrestled with who they are a lot of their lives, or have felt stuck for really a long time. Like all these stories I really resonate with. And favorite thing is watching people, especially, you know, in the programs that I have where I see both, whether it's a prime or a mastermind client, the evolution of people, or as they align, as they let go of resistance of life, they let go of who they should be, they let go of all this bullshit they've been telling themselves for so many years. And they just like light up by knowing their truth. And it's that piece where when they see their truth and when they know their truth through human design, that's my favorite part, because I literally see people's souls light on fire, you know, and it lights me up. And I know that that's why I'm on the planet, to really empower people to become their own guru, to live their fullest potential, to, you know, no one gets to tell you who you are. You get to choose. And yeah, that would totally be my favorite thing about human design.
I love that. And speaking about empowering people, my next question, you empower people to learn their human design so that they can read their own charts and empower themselves. So tell us a little bit about your mastermind.
Yeah. So ultimately, you know, I've lived a life I really don't like being told what to do or who I am. And it really, it repels me. It almost makes me furious. I am so averse to it. So I suppose that's probably why I'm human design and the programs that I create, especially the mastermind, which is my high-end program. This is a program that, you know, whether you're a newbie to human design or a human design junkie, like I really help you to become an expert in your human design. And ultimately through that process, you can also become an expert to help other people unpack their design, because really, like, human design can be so complicated. In fact, it is very complicated. It's a synthesis of astrology, of the I Ching, of the chakra system. It's, you know, all of these things, and it's all sort of squished into one thing, even if squished is a word, but it's a complicated system. So one of my superpowers is taking what's complicated and making it simple, and really, especially my mastermind, it's all about really empowering people to not only be able to read their chart, but to live their chart. So we run experiments. Human design came in and, you know, instructions was that this is an experiment. This isn't something to tell people who they are. It's something to empower people to experiment with their energy. And ultimately, that's what I do through my programs, is I give everyone the knowledge, and I also give them the tools they need to implement, to experiment, to retrieve what we call deletions, distortions, and generalizations, which is something the brain has to do. Much information in any one moment, can't handle it all. So I go through this process of really empowering people to know how to actually align to their human design and know how they did it, instead of just reading them their design and giving them like you are this or you have that. It's like, this is where you're going to find it. This is the information. And then I teach them how to find the patterns. I teach them how to really draw the magic out, how to run their experiment, so that ultimately at the end of this program, they are like a completely different human. And for me, I often feel like I love chocolate, and I'll eat a strip of dark chocolate every day. And sometimes, very rarely, I will like eat 2 strips of chocolate. And the mastermind for me is like 2 strips of chocolate. I'm like, it's almost like, I almost enjoy watching this process and empowering these people too much. Like, it's so good to be able to set people free. And then they all go running off to go and support other people to do the same thing, because ultimately this, for me, one of my highest values, and again, in my chart, it's in my personality sun, I have the gate 37. It's all about community. It's about peace, equality, harmony. And I really want everyone to get along. And, self-love's a huge part of that. We experience in our external only what we experience in our internal world. And I strongly, strongly believe that once we learn to love and accept ourselves, which human design is like the tool to harmony inside, and we can actually experience it outside as well. So, yeah, long answer to your question.
No, I love it. I think it's so important. And I think it's so nice to empower them to be able to read their chart and to learn for themselves and just keep going back to that, and then being able to share it with other people. I think that is so important. So is human design popular in Australia? Like, I know obviously 20 years ago it wasn't, but how is it now? Has it really picked up?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, look, the most just overseas next biggest sector is in Europe, but I think that's just, that really, it just represents population wise. In Australia, it's definitely getting bigger. Human design's really taken off in the last 18 months to 2 years, and it's becoming more and more popular. And what I'm loving the most, I come from a really, a very science-based background. I was raised in, even though my family is religious, my favorite human on the planet, my papa, died when I was 3. And I had this defining moment of like, I don't believe in God anymore. You can all go, did spirituality whole. And, that was spearheaded by this death of this person that was so important to me. And ultimately, I've come around to really understand that, I believe there is this amazing energy, that, as I say, I used to be this really science-based person. And what I'm loving seeing is how, I'm a manifesting generator. I'm designed to put things together. So it's easy for me to come and put, behavioral, brain science, quantum physics, and put that to human design. But I'm also seeing in Australia and around the world how people are integrating human design into yoga or into design or into, fitness, and really using to try and support what's already there, instead of trying to, and I always say this, fit everyone to an external, if people are now into human design, so we know who you are on the inside, and then we can help you with the correct solution for you. So yeah, again, long answer, everywhere globally, which is so exciting.
I love it. So if you could tell the whole world about human design, what would you want them to know if you were like pitching it?
What would I want them to know? Ultimately, I would want the results to speak for themselves. So I would genuinely, I would say, like, and this is what Ra, the guy who channeled it, said it as well, like, don't believe me, don't believe Ra, don't believe anyone who's going to tell you who you are, even if it's human design, but go and try it, discover it for yourself. Like, even if you just go to, mybodygraph.com, put your details, date, city you're born in, the country you're born in, and it's going to give you a chart. And ultimately, and if you go to that place, you can literally on each part of the chart, and some of it's going to make sense. Some of it's not going to make sense. I did, and that's what I really want to teach people. Like, don't go and do the experiment. And if it doesn't work for you and you don't believe in it and you think it's all horse crap, then put it down. It's not the thing for you. But for me, I would want everyone just to say, just give it a go. Just find out for yourself, experiment yourself, because my experience, not only with myself, but like results speak for themselves. And once you learn to live in alignment with your design, ultimately you experience flow, and, you know, raising their consciousness and healing and success and abundance and better relationships and all of these things just by default.
And I think even just knowing, like, I'm a manifesting generator, so even just knowing that, and knowing what the characteristics are, when you start reading through, you're like, oh, even just going on your Instagram and reading the post for manifesting generator or projector or whatever the person is, it gives you such enlightenment, and you're like, oh, this makes so much sense. It's like when you read the Enneagram things and you're like, oh, this is me.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, the thing with human design is that it'd be like there's plenty of projectors that, for, you know, and that's because the nuances of the design itself are quite significant, you know, which is why I would say, like, have a reading done, go to someone who is an expert, but just play around with it, because once you start to get the hang of it, and you do, like, even just go onto Instagram and start picking up bits and pieces, and anything that resonates, keep it. And if it doesn't resonate, then just pop it down, because the odds are either you're heavily conditioned in that area, and you're just not ready to see that yet, or there's something more nuanced in your specific design that is why you don't resonate with it. So what it really does is, if you start to trust how things feel and you make decisions from that place, as opposed to from the mind, which is the big driver for human design. It's like we have to move from the mind making decisions into the physical body, and we all have our own unique way within the body to make decisions for ourselves. And once we start doing that, like, you're just like, oh my goodness. So that thing, you know, for me, I have this real awareness that I was holding this thing, and it felt, I could feel it in myself to become, and it didn't necessarily have words, but it was a feeling. And it was when I came to human design that actually took flight. So it's really getting you to tap into the way you feel in the body, in the spirit, in the energy, as opposed to the mind just saying what you should and shouldn't do.
I love that. It's been so insightful speaking to you, and I'm so glad I had this opportunity, and that you are traveling around Australia, which is incredible. So thank you for making the time. Where can people find you on social media and your amazing podcast?
Where can people find me? So my podcast is the Human Design Podcast. Check it out. So many people send me message after message saying that, like, they listen to one of the recent ones and then they have to go right back to the beginning and listen to them all. So it is set up in a way that there's lots to learn. It's not all, there's so many tools there. And then you can find me at emmadunwoody.com. That's everything that I do there. I also have a team of well there. And then my Instagram is the_human_design_coach on Insta, and you can find me there as well.
I highly recommend. I've learned so much about, you've actually forced me to go back and do my reading for me a few years ago, and I hadn't actually even looked at it again. And then now, because you were started doing the circuitry on your Instagram, I was like, I don't remember this. So I've gone back now and I've actually had a look, and now I'm slowly learning every time that you post which ones are for me. And yeah, it's so fascinating. So even just coming onto your Instagram and having a look, and then going on to mybodygraph.com and finding out what they are, I think that even that is such a good start. And then just listening to your episodes, especially the sleep one, everyone go and listen to the sleep one. It was life-changing for me.
I love it. That's so good. And I'm really glad that it's been supportive, and yeah, there's so much info on the stuff for you guys to check out your own charts as well. So good.
So thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. And I mean, we had a little chat that you are basically on my Jupiter line in Australia. So I've always been so like drawn to Australia. I studied teaching, which I've never taught, but I still am able to if I want to, because I was convinced that I was going to move to Australia to be a teacher, like early, well, it was about 2009. I was like, I'm moving to Australia, I'm going to be a teacher, and that's why I studied it. I've never done it, but I didn't know why I wanted to move there. Now I know it's because my Jupiter line is there. So yeah, it's just been so nice to chat.
Wow, I love that. And oh yeah, it's been beautiful chatting with you. Thank you for me. If you with someone, or did you just look it up online?
So I did my human design with a friend. She does human design reading, and then another friend is an astrologer. So that's how I found out about the Jupiter line and the Australia thing. And yeah, it's just, I still don't know a lot about my human design. I know my characteristics, but I don't know like enough. But I've now pulled out that I've printed my PDF out, and I'm looking and I'm learning about the circuitry and stuff. But I'll send it to you. I'll DM it to you so you can have a little look, because I think you also find it fascinating.
Yeah, sounds good. I love it. Send it to me. Sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm looking for some like a good astrocartographer, someone who does that, like where you're meant to be in the world. If you come across one, let me know. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I've got 2 friends.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, maybe even tag me in one of their posts on Instagram, and I can look them up.
I will. I'll do that. Thank you so much.
And I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.